the factors of 12, which would be plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then also, if I go back and divide those 6 numbers by the factors of 2, then I would have also plus and minus 1/2 and plus and minus 3/2. So those are all the possibilities. So this is from yesterday's lesson. It's posted on the YouTube channel. Because you take all your factors of P and divide that by all your factors of Q to get all your possible roots. Yes, Lauren? On the test, yes, because you have to list them all and you want to list all of them. Okay, so I'm going to tell you because of time that if we tested one is not going to work. But the first one that will work is -1. So let's go ahead and do our -1. So we're going to bring down the first number, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So our first solution that we got is -1. And how did I know that was -1? Yeah, we ended with a 0. Let me go ahead and take this off. So we got 4 solutions that we're looking for. So the first one we found is -1. So what should be the next number we should test? 2. Let's test 2. So let's go ahead and test 2. This is now my new top row. So would it be 2, 11, 20, and 12? Go ahead and do your synthetic division. I honestly don't remember if this works. Can't remember. So I'll let y'all try it and tell me if it works. It didn't work. It does? Does not? Who says it does not work? Raise your hand if you did not get 0. All right, so then the next thing we're going to test is what? We tried +2. It didn't work. So what should we try next? -2. All right, go ahead and do -2. Did it work?
Yes.
Yep. All right, so let's do it. So I'm going to bring down the 2. So I have -2 times 2, which is -4. Add, I get 7. 7 times -2 is -14. When you add, you get 6. 6 times -2 is -12. All right, so now we have our quadratic. So I got 2 of my answers. So to find the last 2, remember that when you get down to 3, this is A, B, and C. So we got to factor to find my last 2 solutions. So go ahead and factor 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So you take A times C, 12. You need 2 numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 7. What would be your 2 numbers that multiply to give you 12, but add and give you a 7? 4 and 3, okay. So now we're going to take out our GCFs, and we have x and a +2. And then here I'm taking out a 2x and a +3. So it looks like -2 is a double root. So we got -2 a second time. So that means it's going to bounce at that intercept. And then for 2x plus 3, subtract 3 and divide by 2, you get -3 over 2. And that's your 4 answers. So looking at the test, I believe this is, it's either a 5-point question or a 6-point question. All right, any questions about how we did that? How we feel about the process? Easy, hard, in the middle, thumbs up, middle, sideways. All right, I kind of agree. This is kind of like, it's not so bad. All right, so now let's go ahead and finish it out with 4.7. And I'm just going to tell you all, don't look at this because I don't know if this is right. Check Canvas for the homework because I can't remember if I updated it in this. So 4.7 is complex zeros. So if you're titling your notes, this is now the end of chapter 4. Well, not the end of chapter 4, but the end of the material that's going to be on the quiz. All right, so the first thing you need to keep in mind is when it comes, you don't have to copy this down, but for complex roots, complex means that they're imaginary. They have an I. For complex roots, they always come in pairs. So if you have 1, you really have 2. Okay, there is no such thing as 1 imaginary solution. If you have 1, you really have 2. Okay, and to find the other imaginary solution, the only thing you're changing is the sign in the middle. That middle sign, when you flip that, that gives you the conjugate. All right, so part of the questions in the homework is just identifying the second solution. So go ahead and copy these down. Can everybody please put your phones away for me? Because what we're doing today is kind of hard. I want to make sure we're all paying attention. Just for today. And then after today, you all will be free. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we have 1 imaginary solution, and you just have to find the second imaginary solution. Because remember, they always travel with a friend. They're never lonely. So for this homework assignment, I think the first few questions, you just have to tell me the conjugate pair. So if you have 3 plus 2i as a solution, if I flip that sign, you only flip the sign in the middle. That means my second solution would be 3 minus 2i. That's the conjugate of 3 plus 2i. If you have -4 minus i, if I flip this sign, then that means you have, your second solution would be what? -4 plus I. For C, there's an imaginary 0 right here. So if you have a 0 minus 2i, that also means you have a positive 2i. And then lastly, -3 plus 5i. The conjugate would be -3 minus 5i. Okay? Any questions about how we did that? So yesterday on the skills check, you all had to write a equation given the roots. So we're going to do that again, except today we're going to have some of our solutions be imaginary. So go ahead and copy down example 2. We have a third degree function. We have a 0 at 1 with a multiplicity of 1, and we also have 2i. So I'll give you a minute to copy that down, and then we'll talk about how do we get the factor of 2i. The only way you can get an I is if you're taking the square root of a negative. So I'm just curious, does anyone know what the factor would be? What factor, I'm just gonna ask on the limb here. Does anyone know what factor would give me 2i as a solution?
Square root.
Kinda. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this off to the side because it's really a very simple pattern. If you see you have 2i, that means the factor would be x squared plus 4. That's the factor that's going to give you 2i. So let's solve it so we can understand why. If you take x squared plus 4 and set that equal to 0, what would we have to do first to solve it? Subtract the 4. And then we would have to take the square root of -4. And when we split that, that's how we get the plus and minus 2i. Because keep in mind, even though they just told us positive 2i, it comes with a partner. If we see that one of our solutions is positive 2i, that means that we also have negative 2i. So our two factors that we need to multiply together to get our third degree function, well, I have a 0 at 1. So what would be my factor? If my 0 is 1, what am I going to put inside the parentheses? X plus 1 or x minus 1? All right, x minus 1. And then we have to multiply that by x squared plus 4. All right, FOIL, distribute, whichever way you want to. Multiply those together to get your third degree function. And when you fill in your 4 squares, you would have x cubed, negative x squared, 4x, and minus 4. So your function rule would be y equals x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 4. That would be your solution. That's the answer. It's not really hard at all. Now, we're going to do long division in a second, but I wanted to go through this first because we already talked about synthetic division. But I want to make sure we do at least one long division question today so that tomorrow we're not doing anything new per se. Yes, Lauren? Okay. All right, any questions about that? All right, let's do another one. Go ahead and copy this one down. This is a 4th degree. So we have y equals, and then if I have a 0 at positive 2, then what would be my factor? X what? X minus 2 or x plus 2? X minus 2. And this one has a multiplicity of 2, so that means that's squared. All right, what's going to be the factor? It's going to be x squared plus something. X squared plus what gives you a solution of negative 3i? 9. X squared plus 9. X squared plus 9. If you solve that, your solutions would be plus and minus 3i. So we need to take that and multiply it by x squared plus 9. So this has a little bit more work. The first thing you want to do, off to the side, make a box, figure out what x minus 2 times x minus 2 is. So go ahead and do that. Take x minus 2 times x minus 2. All right, who got what I got in red? X squared minus 4x plus 4. All right, now we need to make our box. Now this is going to be a longer box. And this is optional if you don't have to make a box. I just like to organize my work this way. We got x squared plus 9. And then across the top, x squared minus 4x plus 4. Go ahead and fill in all 6 squares. Okay. Check, make sure that that's right. Do you agree with those 6 numbers? Who got those 6? Now, the only thing about this is our like terms, they're not at a diagonal. We only have 2 squares that are like terms, and they're not diagonal to each other. Oh, wait, what I do?
Yeah, negative. It's negative 36.
Oh, it is negative 36. Thank y'all so much. I'm glad y'all listening. Let me fix that. Positive, so that's a negative 36x. Anything else? Is that good now? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and combine our like terms with our which is just our green squares. So our final answer would be y equals x to the 4th minus 4x cubed. What do you get when you add those 2 like terms together? 9 plus 4 is 13x squared minus 36x plus 36. It's pretty long. All right, what y'all think about it? So if you have a 0 that's 5i, then what would be your factor?
25.
X squared plus 25. Okay.
Negative 5i.
Still x squared
25.
plus 25. Because when you do x squared plus 25, you get 2 answers. Positive 5i and negative 5i.
So whatever your I is, so like if my I is like 7, then it would be x squared plus 4 down.
Exactly.
So you're just square rooting. Not square rooting. But
Squaring it. But just remember, it has to be a plus,
yeah, I know that.
not a
So it could be
minus.
negative now.
Right. All right, so now let's do our long division. We got the hard stuff out the way, so now we about to do one more good question. No, this is the imaginaries. Now we're going to do long division. Who remembers long division? That's what I'm doing it integrated, so. All right, I'll give you a minute to copy this down. It's a 4th degree, which means I'm looking for 4 answers, but I already know 2 of my answers. What 2 answers do I know? I know one answer is 3i, which means I have another answer that's what?
Negative.
All right, so we already got 2. So we're only looking for 2 more. So if they told me that I have a 0 at 3i, then what's the factor that I know? X squared plus what? Plus 9. So that's what I have to divide into it. And I need to do long division. So x squared plus 9 goes on the outside. And then I have x to the 4th plus x cubed. This whole thing goes underneath. So we're going to do long division. And I think I'm not going to have enough space. Let me take this off, because I need all my little space. So we got x equals 3i, x equals negative 3i, And now we're looking for 2 more. Okay, so steps for long division. You start off by dividing your first term. So my first terms would be x to the 4th and x squared. So let's off to the side. Let's divide x to the 4th by x squared. What do you get when you divide x to the 4th by x squared? X squared. Put that on the roof. And because I'm a little OCD, I like my exponents to be lined up. So that's why I put it over the 7. Does it have to be there? No. But I like my exponents to be lined up. The next step for long division is whatever you put up here gets multiplied by x squared plus 9. So we're going to take that x squared plus 9 and multiply it. Well, let me rewrite this another way. So we're going to take the x squared and multiply it by x squared plus 9. So let's go ahead and distribute that. Distribute and distribute. And this is called long division. So that would be x to the 4th plus 9x squared. So when I bring these terms over here, I have to line it up with its like term. So I'm going to put my x to the 4th here, and the 9x squared will go under the 7x squared. You have to line it up with its like terms. The second thing you have to do is subtract. So when you slide it over, you have to do a sign change. Both terms change signs. So this will become negative and this becomes negative. So when you're doing this long division, the first term should always drop off. So this drops off. I'm going to go really slow. And then I'm going to bring down this next term. And then what do you get here? What's 7x squared minus 9x squared? Negative 2x squared. Good job. And then I like to just bring down everything. And now we're going to repeat the process again. We're building our quadratic on the top of the roof that we'll need to factor. So now we got to go back to the beginning. This time I'm going to divide. This is my new first term. So off to the side, take x cubed and divide that by x squared. You get an x. Put that on the roof. And then take that x. Every time you put something on the roof, we have to multiply it by what's in front. So we're going to distribute. And that's going to give us x to the power of the 3, x to the power of 3 plus 9x. So we're going to slide that over. So x cubed is going to be under x cubed. 9x is going to be under 9x. And I just noticed that I wrote this wrong. That was a plus 9x. See in the top how that was a plus 9x? So that should be a plus and that should be a plus. So x cubed plus 9x goes here. We almost finished. Now before we do anything else, what do we have to do with our two signs? Flip them. Change. This is what my other class have a quiz over tomorrow. Except theirs aren't a 4th degree. So we're going to make this negative and make this negative. So now notice that 2 things are dropping off now, right? So the only thing that I have left, so now we have 2 things that dropped off. So the only thing that's left would be a negative 2x squared and a minus 18. So we're going to go to the side one last time. This is now my first term. Go ahead and divide. negative 2x squared by x squared, and you get negative 2. Put that on the roof. And then take negative 2, multiply that by x squared plus 9. And you should get negative 2x squared minus 18. Slide that over. And now both signs change, so that means that this becomes a plus and this becomes a plus. Just like with synthetic division, you should end with 0. If you don't end with 0, then you messed up something along the way. So now, factor what's on the roof to find your last two solutions. Take that x squared plus x minus 2, factor it and solve it to get your last two solutions. There's flies everywhere. I thought they were just my room, but no, they're everywhere. I don't know why. That's so weird. So weird. Maybe it's like the exhaust system or something. I don't know. Okay, so we got 1x squared. So we got to factor this down to get our last two solutions. So I would need two numbers that multiply to be negative 2, but add to 1. What numbers multiply to give you negative 2, but add to 1? 2 and negative 1. So if x plus 2 equals 0, that means x equals negative 2. And if x minus 1 equals 0, that means x equals positive 1. So now we have all four solutions. Negative 2, positive 1. All right. I'm not asking if you could take a test over this today, but who stayed with me through the process? All right, we're going to do this one more time, and then we'll be finished for today. Long division. Okay, go ahead and copy this one down. Oh, let me look at my homework key. I'll let you know. Let me look at it. So they told us 1. They said one of our answers is 4i. So if I have 4i, what else do I have? All right, what's the factor that I'm going to divide into this? What factor gives me plus and minus 4i? X squared plus 16. So I'm going to put that on the outside. And then I'm going to set up my little division problem. This time I'll be careful to make sure I don't write it wrong. Okay. So you always start off by dividing the first by the first. So take 2x to the 4th and divide it by x squared. And that's going to give us, what does that give us to put on the roof? 2x squared. Put that on the roof. And then we take that 2x squared and multiply it by the factor, which is x squared plus 16. So that would give us 2x to the 4th plus 32x squared. I'm going to pause and make sure that I didn't mess that up. Does that look right? Now when you slide it over, make sure you're lining it up with its like term. So 2x to the 4th goes here. 32x squared will go here. And we're going to do a change. So I'm going to bring down my 7x cubed. And then I have, what's 28 minus 32? Negative 4x squared plus 112x minus 64. And we're going to repeat that process again. So now my new first term, what am I going to divide off in the kitchen?
7x squared.
7x squared by what? Not 7x squared. 7x cubed by what? X squared. So we got 7x cubed divided by x squared, which is going to give us what? See, we're building our quadratic on the roof that we're going to have to factor to find our last two answers. So 7x, and then you're going to take that 7x and multiply it by x squared plus 16. So 7x cubed, and I don't know 16 by 7 by heart. Use my handy dandy calculator. 112 x. Should have knew that's what it was going to be because it's going to have to drop out the x. So I'm feeling pretty confident because two things should be dropping off at this point. And they are. They're both going to flip signs. So instead of them both being positive, now they're both negative. So I got negative 4x squared and a negative 64. And then one last time, go to the kitchen. Divide your first terms. So that'll be negative 4x squared divided by x squared, which gives you negative 4. Who got negative 4 for the last term? And then we're going to take that negative 4, multiply it by x squared plus 16. And I'm feeling pretty confident. They both changed to a plus. And I know I did it right because I ended with a 0. All right, go ahead and factor what's on the roof. Find your last two answers. You can't do a shortcut this time though because A is 2. So take that 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. Two x squared goes here, minus 4 goes here. So I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 8, but add to a positive 7. What would be my numbers?
You said what would be your numbers? 8 and negative 1.
8 and negative 1. So I got a 2x and a minus 1. I have an x and a plus 4. So my last two solutions will be x equals negative 4. And then for the 2x minus 1,
It'd be 1/2, right?
it'll be positive 1/2. And that is long division. So if they give you, and this is on the test, if we give you one that's imaginary, you can't do synthetic. You have to do long division. All right, I'm going to end there. Tomorrow we're going to just do a little bit more practice, but I've now covered everything that's on your quiz.